let's get started. It's 12 o'clock, and you know what's after this? Free lunch, right? So let's do this, okay?
Okay, great.
This session is on faculty professional development from 2012. I know it's 2013, but we're going to back up a little bit and reflect on what happened in 2012, because it was fabulous. And so I'm glad that you're here to learn about what Fact Prof Dev is, what we call it endearingly. So we're going to talk about what it is. And so I will be presenting. I'm Stella Erbes. I'm from Seaver, from the Humanities Teacher Education Department. I teach in Teacher Ed. My students are working on California teaching credentials because there are so many California teaching positions open right now. But we keep teaching because they will open, right? And so I'm teaching in Teacher Ed. My colleagues are also from Seaver. We have Robert Williams in Social Science and Milt Shatzer in the Communications Division. And together we will be presenting on Fact Prof Dev. So I just want to start off by saying that I've been in education for 22 years this year. I started when I was 12. No. And so I've been in education for a long time. And my first principal, I come from K through 12 education. I taught high school. And my first high school principal gave me a really valuable life lesson when I first started off teaching. He said, surround yourself with good people. And I have taken that to heart from my first year of teaching, and I have done that. And I believe I've done that working with the Tech and Learning group. So before I start our presentation, I just want to thank Hong and Landon and Alan and Jerry, Jonathan. Just the Tech and Learning group has been a great asset to me. I think they're all great people with wonderful resources. And Fact Prof Dev is just one of the resources that they provide for faculty. So thank you to the Tech and Learning group. Today in our session, we will be going over an overview of what Fact Prof Dev is. If you're wondering, what does that mean? What is this series Fact Prof Dev that you speak of? So I'm going to be telling you what it is, and then I'm also going to show you examples through my colleagues' work of how people have applied what they learned from Fact Prof Dev in their teaching. So it's what it is and how you apply it. Now, it's kind of going off of the proverb, you know, give a man a fish and you'd feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So from that proverb, I've created my own proverb and said, give a man a tech tool and watch him transform the way he teaches, okay? So that's what you're going to see today is offerings of different resources and tools and how people can transform the way they teach with these tools. So now, let me just share with you just a quick example because I teach student teachers. So I want to model this teaching. I want to share the same teachings with my student teachers because they're going to go into their classrooms and use these tools. So let me just give you a quick glimpse of what that looks like. So I taught one of my student teachers about screencasting. So one of my colleagues will share maybe about that a little bit, but they're videotapes basically, or audio casts of what they're teaching, and students can go back and listen to it later. So I taught the student teachers how they could screencast their lessons. So it was just a simple tool. You can find it on your iPad. You could use Explain Everything on your iPad. It's an app. It's $2.99. You could use a free tool like Screencast-O-Matic that my colleagues will be sharing. But what I want to show you is what my student teacher did with that. So his name is Mr. Hurdle. He is a history teacher, and Mr. Hurdle took my idea of a screencast, and he created his own YouTube channel with all these playlists of lessons that he's created for his history class. So I taught him one tool. I taught him how to fish, and look what he's done for all his students. And he has had over 6,000 views of these videos, which I think is amazing. And so we're going to teach you that same idea. Just simple tools you can use in your classroom that will transform the way you teach. And this is just an example of how I did that with my own student. Okay. All right. How many of you, when you started teaching, thought, you know, I just want to be mediocre. I'll just be average. Let's just wake up and hit for average. Anyone? No, I don't think so. But how many of you would love to be paid money to go to a conference or a workshop to learn how to be an outstanding teacher? How many of you would like to be paid to do that? Yes. How many of you, while you're doing that, would like to be treated to delicious cuisine every day? Anyone? Anyone? Yes. How many of you would like to learn how to be a great teacher, dine on delicious cuisine, while hanging out with amazing professors like Milt Shatzer and Robert Williams? How many of you would like that? Because it's quite a party with them. You haven't seen them yet, but wait till we're done with this session. You're going to feel like you were at a party. Well, if any of these attributes to learning are positively impacting you right now, then you should be part of FactProf Dev, because that is exactly what's going on in FactProf Dev. You are going to be just amazed at what you learn that will transform the way you teach. You will be treated to snacks and breakfast and lunch, and you will be paid for your time generously while you're there. And you will be able to connect with all these amazing people while you're there. So, just briefly, I wanted to share that it's 2 weeks in the summer. Last summer it was in July. It's on the Malibu campus, and they're full-day sessions. But if you cannot be there for the full day or every day, you could just go for half a day or a full day here. You don't have to go for the whole 2 weeks, but it's a 2-week series, and you get a little something extra if you go for the whole 2 weeks. So, you might want to try and go for 2 weeks. Also, all 5 schools can come. So we have people from the business school, we had people from GSEP, the Malibu campus, the law school, all 5 schools are invited to attend. As well as we have the time during FactProf Dev to not just learn the tools, but apply them in your teaching. So while you're there, you can actually learn the tool and then figure out how you're going to incorporate it in your teaching. So 2 weeks, you can go for days, half days. The purpose is for you to find tools to transform your teaching. All 5 schools, and the presenters last summer I presented along with Hong Ka and Landon Phillips, and the whole tech team is there to support you the entire time. I think they just want the food, but they're there anyway, right, Tiffany? Good job. Okay, so what I want to share with you today is the fruit of our labor. From 2 weeks of instruction or days here and there, what happens afterwards? How is a professor transforming their teaching? Often we think of technology and learning like the Tech and Learning group, and we really end up focusing on the technology, don't we? Like we look at technology and learning and you're thinking, oh, technology. And a lot of your faces end up like this, don't they? You think, oh, technology, too much, more to learn. But really when you look at technology and learning, I would challenge you to look at not the technology, but the learning. So don't think of it like, I have to use this tool and this tool and this tool. I have to, because the tools exist. So I must use all of them, right? It's like saying, like, there's so many cookies out there. I must eat all of them. You don't have to eat all of them, okay? You can just dine on the ones you enjoy. So think about the learning and not so much the technology. Now, when instructors look at the learning, they get really excited. So I want you to think about the learning and not just the technology. So when you're learning all these different tools, pick a few and put them in your pocket, and then later on you'll think, oh, that's a great tool, right? Don't try to stuff them all in your pocket. Think about that. Now, why would we learn all these tech tools and incorporate them in our teaching? Let me give you some ideas. First is, there are changes in technology even in our personal world. So remember the camera where you had to actually deliver film somewhere? Isn't that changing into a digital camera where you're just really looking at pictures online and not so much, developing the pictures? Remember this telephone, if you can remember this telephone? And when you went to the 0, it wouldn't go all the way, so you'd have to start all over, So that telephone's even changing into the iPhone, and now, to be honest, I think the first one's almost obsolete for me because I use my iPhone to take pictures all the time. So there's these changes in technology. Personally, this is also changing. Procedures. Before you might have called someone to say, come to dinner. Now I text my son, he's upstairs, and I don't want to waste my voice getting him to dinner, so I just text him, come down for dinner, or starve. Okay? Another procedure that's changed is the way we store things. The librarian will appreciate this, right? I built bookshelves and Bernice buys a Kindle. So look what happens to my bookshelf. So technology is changing the way we think personally and how we do things personally, because the procedures are changing. But professionally, technology is also changing our world. So we used to have these overhead machines, you remember, with the engine inside them that would when it was like on. And now we have document cameras, so we don't have to make transparencies anymore. You can just actually put the paper underneath the camera and show that. That's a change in our profession. We used to have these amazing computers, especially in elementary schools. Apple used to donate these computers, and now look how thin the computers are being created. This is changing the way we do things. We're portable. This is changing the way we think. So additionally, professionally, we used to go to books a lot. And you might find this in the library, right? A lot of the kids, they're not used to going to books, because if we tell them to do a research project, what are they going to be doing? Their first idea is, well, I'll Google that, right? So it's changing the way the students are thinking. So I understood what the keynote speaker was saying in terms of, they might not know how to use certain technologies. We assume they don't know how to use them, but they have grown up with these technologies. These students think differently. They have been raised with tools that we were not raised with. So given that, there are a plethora of tools that are at our disposal where we can integrate them into our teaching so that we're not just mediocre teachers, so we can optimize learning in our classrooms. So I really believe that because the students are growing up with all these tools and thinking differently, that their minds are changing. They have been primed to think differently because we have these tools, right? An example is the way we read. I think that we are all being primed to read everything like a hyperlink. Think about it. Your students are looking for headings, and they are looking for small paragraphs to read. So when they see dense text with no headings, it freaks them out, okay? They're looking at that going, whoa, because they have been primed to read things on their mobile devices or tablets or computers like a hyperlink. That's one way we've been primed. And if you don't realize this, based in cognitive psychology, we've been primed to pair things together. So let's say you are looking at this screen. Everyone look at this screen and tell me, what color is this? What do cows drink? Cows don't drink milk. I know. I just blew your mind right now, didn't I? Right? Yeah, maybe the little ones. Yeah. Now you're going to justify because you have a PhD. Okay, right? Okay, so I'm just letting you know we have been primed this way, right? To think this way. And I think we've been primed now to think learning and technology go together, not separate. So if you can learn a few of these tools so that you can optimize learning in your classroom, you will be the better educator. So now what I would like to do is to share with you a few examples of how collaborative tools can be used to create, to motivate critical thinking. The students can contribute in your class, have conversations, and connect with one another. And my colleagues will show you examples of how they've done that using the tools that we've learned together during that 2-week series that we call Fact Prof Dev. So first up, Milt Shatzer, I believe, is going to come up and share how his course has evolved from his experience in Fact Prof Dev.
Well, thank you, Stella. So this is my part of what I did in my summer vacation. And so I must say that I think I could speak for Robert, that we enjoyed the 2-week session that we were together and had a great time. Food was fantastic. Ate from a number of different cuisines. from Mexican all the way to Mediterranean, so that was excellent. Although, Stella, the only critique that I have of the session, and I think you got some feedback and are doing better, you weren't enthusiastic enough. Yeah, she really lacks on the enthusiasm. Yeah, but no, Stella was great. So anyway, I would like to share 3 things that I've used from the conference in trying to improve my classes. The first one is something called Spotify. Okay. Anybody in here use Spotify or familiar with it? Okay, well, a lot of people do. All right, a lot of people use it. For those of you who came into this classroom maybe a little bit early, you heard some nice music, some background music, sort of set the mood for the classroom, etc., etc. Well, I now use Spotify to kind of create the mood for my classes when students come in. Some upbeat music, maybe some soft jazz, something like that. But it gets students in a better mood. I think one thing that Stella told us during the conference is we generally learn better when we feel good, when we're happier. We feel good about ourselves, we feel good about the environment. And so I try to structure that, to create that in the beginning. Plus, I teach in the area of intercultural communication. And so Spotify is a great way for me to go out and get world music. So I can bring in a number of musical genre that aren't just Western styles of music. So everything from Arabic music to Greek music to traditional Japanese music or whatever. Spotify is a great way to do this. Spotify, by the way, is an online music streaming program that you can download to your computer. It's free of charge, although you can pay for the more advanced premium Spotify if you want. But it's really fantastic. There are a number of titles, a number of artists that they have. You can go out and create your own playlists and things like that. Second thing I wanted to talk about in terms of improvements that I tried to make to my classes were in my PowerPoint presentations. This actually comes from a module of one of the courses I teach, the Intercultural Communication course. This module is on nonverbal communication. And one of the elements of nonverbal communication is something called vocalics. And this was a before slide. Actually, I was using PowerPoint, so that was an improvement over just writing things on the board, so that was good. I thought I was doing really well because I thought I had great color coding here. It was sort of orange and blue, Pepperdine colors. But it was heavily focused on the text, okay? So it wasn't that much of an improvement over and above writing things on the board, or maybe I could have done a better job just giving a handout so students wouldn't have to write everything and then be focused on the words. But in talking about vocalics, vocalics is all stimuli produced by the human voice other than the words themselves that affect the auditory sense, okay? Well, that's a lot of verbiage there, it's textbook definition, et cetera, but I wanted to think, how could I improve upon this? And one thing that I was sort of gratified by in Dr. Miller's keynote address this morning was that memory seems to be enhanced by using multiple modalities. So in other words, just narration or repeating the text, that's one modality, but if you could use another kind of modality, images, pictures, or something like that, that would help. So actually, I tapped Landon Phillips's expertise here, and I said, Landon, can you help me out here? Actually, in the workshop, we had been given from Landon a number of sources where you can go out and get free images that you can use in your PowerPoint presentations so that you could create a PowerPoint with maybe some pictures that would focus more on the picture itself and less on the text. Well, here's another example of that same slide. So not only do I give, heavy verbiage on the definition, but then the examples here, and by this time the students are bored to death and thinking about, what they're going to do on the weekend. Well, here's another way to present that information, okay? And you see a picture, the picture is of what? Of the year, okay, auditory stimuli. Actually, when Landon and I were working on this, we were looking for images of people talking to each other, examples of maybe what vocalics involves. But I think when we looked at this, we said, this is probably a good image to use to bring or help students remember that vocalics deals with the auditory stimuli, with hearing things with the ear. And so less verbiage, image that hopefully they'll remember, and using multimodalities here. Landon then went out and found another photo where we could superimpose the example. So we do get the text, but you also get the pictures as well, the images as well. By the way, Google Images is a very good source for free images that you could use. If you click on Google Images and then go to there's a little gear icon that's up in the upper right-hand corner, and you click on that, you can make certain selections in terms of the size of the photo. Landon told me anything that's larger than 800 by 600, I think that's pixels, is a good size. Also, in terms of usage, select anything that's free to use and share even commercially. Those are all in the advanced search screen that you get to. So it's a good source for getting free photos to use in your PowerPoint presentations. Now, the next thing that I want to demonstrate, third and last thing that I want to demonstrate, is embedding videos into a PowerPoint presentation. How many people in here embed videos into PowerPoint? Okay. Back in the old days, what I used to do was I might have a YouTube clip, and so I would queue that up and have the URL there, and then I would have my PowerPoint presentation. So I would then show my slides, get to the point where I wanted to show the video. I'd have to get out of the PowerPoint, go over to the URL for the YouTube, show the YouTube video, and then come back and find my place in the PowerPoint. Well, that was a little bit arduous, and I thought, boy, it would be really nice if we just go to something and click on it and have the video be shown. And so here is an example. Let's see if we can bring this up here. I may need
click on the actual play button at the very bottom left there. Not that one.
Sorry. This bottom left.
It's on the other slide. Previous slide.
previous slide. There we go.
Here.
Okay, yeah.
There should be a play button that shows also.
Okay, great. There we go.
There it is.
I'll tell you what, let's just pause it for a minute here. Of course, I always have to tell my students that before I show this clip, this is to illustrate vocalics, that I do not endorse the product nor the lifestyle that's associated with the product. You may see why this is the case. But this video clip, I think, is a great video clip that demonstrates or illustrates or gives an example of what vocalics is all about. So let's go ahead and play that then.
Dude. 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 Dude.
Alex, all of the auditory stimuli other than the words themselves. In that little commercial, you hear the guy say only one word, and the word is dude. But there are multiple meanings to that word that comes to us by vocalics. So, other than the minor glitch that we had moving to it, this was, it's a much better way to embed a video into your PowerPoint. Now, if you want to know more about this, I would suggest go to YouTube and just type in a search, or in your Google browser, just type in how to embed a video into PowerPoint 2010. There's a couple of excellent little how-to videos there that show you how to do it, and it's easily done. Plus, one more plug. If you're interested in improving your PowerPoint presentations, there's a great book out called Presentation Zen by Reynolds. That is an excellent book that helps to declutter a lot of your PowerPoint presentations, so that what you have is really what you want people to remember, and try to avoid a lot of the stuff that's distracting. All right, thank you. Robert, I think you are up, sir.
Thank you. Well, I'm Robert Williams, and I wanted to talk, as you can see, about some of the things that FactProfDev sent me into, launched me into. I want to talk a little bit about going beyond FactProfDev. First, though, I have to thank Stella, both not only for her role in FactProfDev last summer and in this presentation, but she set me straight, I think, on a proverb. I had always heard it this way: give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, give a fish a man and you feed it for a week. And I never really knew what the meaning of that, my version, was. But I think it means you don't want to be the speaker standing between a room full of people and lunch. And that's the position I find myself in right now, I think. So I will do my best to keep this brief and on point. But I want to say a few things about what FactProfDev did for me. On the one hand, I got some great new tools, and there were a lot of things thrown at us over the course of 2 weeks. And in fact, if you remember that slide that Stella showed of all the different logos, I think we were introduced to all of those in one form or another, and probably more than that. And my impression was that the idea was, we're going to throw a bunch of stuff at you and we'll see what sticks. And a few things did stick, not by any means all of those, and I don't think the intent was to get us to use all of those. But some things stuck, and some things sort of led me into new directions. And I have to say that the last 6-8 months of my life have been probably the most productive in terms of learning new things that I've had since grad school, at least. And or actually, I probably should think about my parenting years, and probably was learning a lot of new things at that point. But I've really been stretched in a lot of ways, and FactProfDev sort of set me on the path to some of this. Just a quick example of this. One of the things that happened is that I was sort of excited about what we were learning last summer, and I said something to my 22-year-old son about this on the phone one evening. And he said, "Do you know Prof Hacker? Do you know the website Prof Hacker, which is a blog on the Chronicle of Higher Education site?" And I said, "No, I've never looked at Prof Hacker." So I started reading Prof Hacker, and one of the first things I read there was about syllabus redesign, and that sort of led me to completely redesigned my syllabi. I had syllabi that looked pretty much like my 70-year-old professors 30 years ago. My syllabi looked, they were typed, they were simple and printed, black and white entirely. And after a few days or a couple hours of work, I decided to completely redesign syllabi and decided to do something like this for all of my courses. And so my syllabi, I still don't think my students read them, by the way, but at least maybe they look at the pictures now, and maybe they'll see at least they can match the book covers for my course, visually with what's in the bookstore or online. So that was a sort of an unexpected and different sort of progression from this. By the way, I even have a couple of QR codes in my syllabi now. The one here will take students to my blog. The one technological thing I've done for a long time is blog. I've blogged since 2004. There are a couple of years in there that were kind of lost years as far as my blog was concerned. But I have blogged a lot, and so I try to drive my students to that in any way I can without actually coercing them. I have a QR code that will take them to the Disability Service Office website, so that it's very easy to get to that. And you'll see I've even got my QR code for my blog on my nameplate outside my office. So somebody wandering by, wondering who is this guy, they could, I don't know that anybody's ever done it, but they could actually check me out on the web and find my website this way. One of the things that we were introduced to were a variety of tools for podcasting and vodcasting. And this is something that I have used, and I've begun trying to amass a collection of mostly 5 to 7 minute long podcasts, and then I'm putting together vodcasts as well. And my technique in this is to sort of break these things down into very small digestible portions, things that are probably not much longer than a song you might listen to. And so much more beautiful than a song. But I've started a series that I call Human Rights in 5, meaning a 5-minute, in fact they're exactly 5 minutes, but a 5-minute mini lecture on some aspect of human rights, which is part of what I teach. And as I got into this, I started looking for examples of podcasts, and I was very impressed with the ones that sort of used music as an intro or as a background for parts of it. And I thought, I'd like to have a little music, some kind of tag to get me into this, and an intro, outro kind of thing. And so I went online. I was looking for free music and stuff where I wouldn't have to worry about copyright issues if all of a sudden Human Rights in 5 took off and made me famous. But I found some pretty interesting sites for getting copyright-free music. And then I thought, wait, I could do this. So now I've got something I put together myself on GarageBand on the Mac. That's my intro to Human Rights in 5. Nothing I ever expected to do. Reading a thing that at least we in Seaver get from time to time, or at least have available to us, a little publication called The Teaching Professor. I came across the idea of doing podcasts as introductions to some of the books that I assign. So those 5 texts that I use for this Ethics and International Politics course, I've got several of them done. I've got a couple more to do, but as we get to each text, I'm doing about a 4 or 5 minute introduction where I tell the students something about the author, something about the book, some things to look for. And it's not stuff that I would normally, or that I really want to spend time in class doing, although I could do that certainly. But I consider it a supplement. I consider it something else that if they want an introduction to the text, it's there. It's me speaking about the text, telling them the things that I find interesting. And it's short, easily digestible, and of course, downloadable. I've started putting together some materials that hopefully at some point will form kind of a core of both podcasts, vodcasts, and even readings. related to the study of international relations in Seaver College's international programs. So one of my early lectures is titled Museums and International Relations, and this is part of the growing collection of podcasts. By the way, a lot of this came about for me through being introduced to Audacity. This is sort of what Audacity looks like. 6-8 months ago, I never would have thought I would be, looking at waveforms and saying, I know what that sounds like just by looking at it. And I do have a little bit of sense of that now, and a whole lot more expertise on using this. One of the things that happened as I was using Audacity is that I thought, I need some training, some additional training, because the 10-15 minute introduction to Audacity in Fact Prof Dev, because there were so many things being introduced, that wasn't getting it for me, or maybe I wasn't paying attention at that point. But there are obviously a lot of things online, but among the things that I found, and well, actually, let me go here. One of the things that I found that had been introduced to us or given as a resource a couple of years ago, but I kind of found my way back to it, was lynda.com. And if you don't know about lynda.com, IT makes this available, and these are extremely well done video introductions to a lot of software, a lot of IT resources. Here are a couple of the other things that I've already mentioned that I'm using. Let me just mention one or two other things. The vodcasting is in the early stages. One of the things that I'm also doing is, as I go to professional conferences now, I'm taking the video camera and I'm trying to get brief interviews with some of my colleagues from other places. So somebody who is expert on drones, for example, I will sit down with her and we'll talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll take this tape back home and turn it into a brief conversation about that I can use as one of my vodcasts in an international relations course. Goya, I've for a long time used art in my introductory international relations class, and so now some of those artworks that I've used to talk about, to get into the subject of war or peace or human rights or whatever, I'm putting some of those on vodcasts as largely as screen captures, but this will be sort of another resource to be able to use in these courses. Then this was not part of Fact Prof Dev, but as one thing led to another, as I began thinking about other ways that I could leverage some of the technology, I began thinking about Google Maps, which I have used before in a variety of ways. One of the easiest and simplest things I've done with Google Maps, and as you probably know, they are customizable. You can create your own maps. One of the simplest things I've done with Google Maps in the past is simply to indicate where I live when I have students over, or for that matter, friends who've never been to my home. I'll send them a link to my personal Google map that gives the exact location, and they can find it, and some versions of it actually have the route traced out from the dormitories on campus to my condo up on Baxter Drive. And this is a very simple use of the personalization feature of the Google map. Well, as I began thinking about this possibility of putting together a course for students in Pepperdine's overseas programs, the undergrads in London and Heidelberg and Florence and Lausanne in particular, or maybe eventually expanding this to Buenos Aires and Shanghai. I thought Google Maps could be a really good resource for this. And so I'm in the middle of what I consider to be a lifelong project. I don't think this will ever end. I think I'll be obsessive about it till the day I die. But a very long-term project. Here we go. To put map pins at places principally near the Pepperdine facilities in Europe. I'm starting in Europe. And then include with those map pins, and here we have the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. This is let me back out of this a little bit and show you the sort of full majesty of the map. Go down to about continental level, more or less. But map pins, any one of which you can click on. And what would be a good one? Let's see something random here in London. And, well, that's Runnymede. That's not quite London. But what I'm putting together are brief descriptions of the places as they might relate to international relations. I believe this is Osnabrück, where the Peace of Westphalia in 1648 was signed. Very important for modern international relations. And so, this is something that I want to try to encourage students, whether this course ever develops or not. It'll be available to people who go overseas. But to encourage students to see the world that they're traveling in, the world perhaps that they live in, from my perspective as an international relations scholar. So you have these places you could go, or you could be an armchair traveler for that matter, and learn a little bit about the history of international relations just by clicking through on this map. I can go back to the PowerPoint. I'm not quite sure why. I have to, by the way, thank Landon for putting this together. And in case you didn't know, that was his face with the scream early on in the slides, I believe. Wasn't it? But at any rate, this is the blog and the hang on, let me go real quickly here. This is the blog, and the last thing I'll mention is that the new thing is I'm learning Dreamweaver. I'm learning CSS and HTML a little bit to start building out my own website from this what was actually blog, and there's going to be a whole domain, a whole robertewilliamsjr.com will just be the place to go for international relations materials. So the bottom line on all of this is that there has been, here we are. For me, there's been a lot of sort of added benefits, things that I really didn't expect to get out of this workshop, and one thing has led to another. And the last thing I will say about this is that while I've not been a good practitioner of this, I do believe it's helpful for us as faculty members to have frequent experiences of learning outside of our disciplines. We're lifelong learners in our disciplines, most of us. But if we're forced to learn things outside of our disciplines, we get a better sense of what it's like to be the students in our classes. And for me, this has been kind of a revelation. Learning a little bit about web design, learning a little bit about some of these technological tools, going on lynda.com, which by the way has helped me to sort of think about what works and what doesn't work in vodcasting. There's a lot of bad vodcasting out there. One of the things that I've learned about technology is that it expands tremendously the number of ways we have to teach poorly. But it also gives us a few tools to teach better, and that's been what I've appreciated. So, Stella, do you want to make some closing remarks about all of this?
So, if you feel overwhelmed right now by some of the words that we've been using or some of the tools that you might not even recognize, like if you see a QR code and you're wondering, what is a QR code? Or if you're looking at vodcasting and you're saying, that's great, but what is vodcasting? Then FactProfDev is for you. Because during that seminar, you will learn so many of those tools that you can apply to your teaching pretty instantaneously, I would say. And of that slide with all the tools, you'll be exposed to all of them, and then you can choose which ones that you can adopt into your own pedagogy. If you have questions regarding any of the tools that were used today, or something you'd like to ask my colleagues and how they adapted them in their pedagogy, please come up and let us know. And thank you for being with us.